Yo, the series is over. It's
Oh.
over. Oh god.
Oh,
Finally,
we have escaped.
we finally have escaped the hell that was that series. Whew. All right, and we back.
Welcome to the post-league time pre-show. For people who are new joining us, we do post-league time every Saturday, Sunday. Today, of course, is Sunday, and featuring yours truly, Scarra. For people who don't know, you're on my channel, so you must know something about me. I have been a player, I've been a professional league player, a professional coach, I've been a streamer, entertainer, I've done it all. Joining me on our post-league time pre-show is my coworker, associate, Xell Tweets.
Yo, what's up? Well, just Xell. I do tweet occasionally, and yeah, my history kind of in the scene is I've been part of the scene since season 3, late season 3, where I started to work with Team Curse and Team Liquid as their video guy, and then I eventually started working at Riot as on-camera talent and as a producer. And now I'm just the production slave for this show. Actually, I still work at Riot. What am I saying?
Yep, so ex-all-chat superstar,
Yeah.
current production slave, I have replaced Base Una from yesterday because he is busy doing social media work for Team Liquid.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I forgot that he's doing that like on the weekends now. But yeah, so basically this show is about LCS, and so we're going to go over the games for today, Sunday's games, and we're just going to be waiting for Mark because obviously he's on the desk and he'll be on his way. It's Sunday, so it means that he'll be back earlier than normal because on Saturdays he takes a while to get here. Let me start up the Mark timer.
Usually on Sundays you'll get here between like 15 to 20 minutes, so you guys won't have to wait very long. When Mark gets here, we'll start our analysis portion of the show. We'll be talking about the 4 series that happened today, as well as our weekly power rankings, which we hold every Sunday, every week.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty interesting.
I just want to remind you guys, we just opened up some social media outlets, so please follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I think it's all just at Post League Time. So if you guys want more of our content, go over that way to know when we go live, all that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What did we do? Oh, yesterday we watched Logan. We talked about it a little bit at the end of the show last night. It was a good movie. It was like really good.
The thing about Logan is like it's a more serious movie than I expected. You know,
Yeah.
I think usually when you go into like comic book superhero movies, you're expecting like a lot of action. Maybe there's like a romance portion of the story too, and they just throw that in there, and you're like expecting to see some Michael Bay stuff with some cool like superpowers. And this movie is kind of more on the dark and nitty gritty part. I'm not gonna ruin what happens, but it definitely was a little bit more unexpected because I didn't read much about it beforehand.
Yeah, I had no expectations going in. Just from the trailers, I thought it was like Wolverine plus The Last of Us had a baby, and that's Logan, and it kind of is a little bit like. I don't know. It was a spectacular movie though. They like handled they juggled a lot of stuff in the movie. You know, like father-daughter relationship, father and grandfather relationship, like the post like apocalyptic world of like what it's like after the mutants like stopped being a thing in the world. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just saying.
That was my analysis of the movie.
I agree with you, but I feel like maybe you're spoiling the movie a little bit. So,
not really. That's all the information that was in the trailers. So
okay, so for people that don't know, the movie Logan is about. Hold up a sec. It's a Wolverine movie. It's based on Wolverine.
What are you doing, man? What are you getting at here?
Dude, I figured if we're just gonna spoil it, we gotta spoil it from the very beginning. So some people might think of Logan, it's like, oh, that's just a cool name, but it's like it's actually the name.
Yeah, it's actually about Wolverine in the later days. That you know that from the trailers, guys. I'm not spoiling anything, anyways.
What if my fans don't watch the trailers?
Whatever. You'll get it in the first 10 seconds of
watching
watching
all right. Let's move on a little bit. So actually, this is gonna be a really hard pre-show because yesterday we kind of talked about almost everything we want to talk about for
literally
the week.
Everything.
So like we're going to this pre-show and before me and Josh are always just like, so what do you want to talk about today? And today was just like, so we watched something yesterday and
that's about it.
I mean, I guess I can talk about this. I've said a little bit about my stream. So currently I'm planning on moving into like a new bigger house and working with like a full-time production person in-house as well as more talent and to be able to deliver some very, I guess, unique League of Legends content or just content in general. And I'm not willing to be able to release who I'm working with or who's in there with me or what we're even going to do. But we're in the process of signing the lease. Actually, yesterday was supposed to be when the lease was just finished. It's completely done. I had the cashier's check for like the security deposit. I was giving it to them, and then literally they were just like, you know what? We just noticed on the application you said you have a pet. We don't like pets. And like, so people don't know, we have a black cat. He's really nice.
Wow,
his name is
you
Boo.
don't have to say it's black. God, racist.
I had to fill in for Mark somehow. So, anyways, so it's like he's really cute, doesn't make any noise, hypoallergenic because I'm allergic to cats, and like I like him a lot. And he's Yuna's cat, so Yuna loves this cat. Yeah. And there's a chance that we might have to move and like leave him behind or leave him with like Yuna's family.
That sucks.
And it actually sucks. Yeah. So. Because they're very strict on it. They're like no pets allowed in the house at all. We don't care if it's like if it sheds or not, or like how cute it is, like how less little noise it makes. So we might have to just leave the cat behind. So we're kind of fighting them on that right now. But trying to find a lease, like just getting a lease for like a house with a lot of people is actually a nightmare. I'm hoping this stuff finishes for me pretty quickly so I can just focus on doing stuff I love to do. You
know, it's actually surprising that they care so much about cats. Like, I know a lot of places don't like dogs in particular, but that makes sense. Like, dogs make bigger messes. They're louder, typically, and stuff. So
it's just like an overarching thing. Like, I'm not worried that someone will like the cat. Like, literally everyone who visits our apartment, everyone is always like, I love Boo.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I always joke to them, dude, just take him. Like, I won't tell Yuna, just walk him out the door. He won't make a sound, just goodbye. And Yuna's always like, no, get away from it.
What if you just move in and you just silently bring the cat
No,
in?
Like, we were honestly considering that. We like had an entire discussion where we were just like, what's the the risk analysis for bringing this cat in? It's okay, well, what are the chances my landlord comes a lot? Like, they're planning on maybe coming over a lot. Like, what if they see her? Like, technically, legally, they're required to give us like a 3-day notice before or else like then they can evict us.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, well, do we just like bank on the fact that like we can hide him when they come over every time? So it's like we were legitimately thinking about all these ways to bring in the cat. We were just like, you know what? Man. It's not worth it, but yeah, it's kind of worth it, man.
Man, that sucks. That really sucks. But yeah, what are the chances that the landlord is watching your stream? They're like, man, this guy is so shady. He goes to your stream, sees this conversation.
Well, I mean, both the landlady and the landlord are like a married couple, and they're like 70 or 80.
Dude, they're probably your biggest fans.
They only speak Korean, and they don't.
Dude, bring me in, dude. Bring me in, coach.
Dude, actually, I was thinking how nice it would be if we had a Korean translator, because literally it was like talking to a stone wall. It was like, what do you think about this price? Dude. And then it would be, we didn't have to play telephone. The agent translates. And then they translate it back to the entire time. The landlady is just giving us like this angry look, and it's just like,
dude, I'm telling you, it's because you're Chinese. You know, they're older Korean couples. They're just like, oh, we remember what you did back in the 3000 BC wars. You gotta bring me in. Like, I'm telling you, like, Korean people treat other Korean people better.
No,
like,
I don't even doubt it. Like, oh my god.
I've been to Korean barbecue places where like the service is like god fucking awful, and like my white friends are ordering and they're like speaking in English or whatever, and then I come in, I'm like, hey, 나 이거 먹고 싶다. You know, like I start saying things in Korean, and they're like, oh shit, they're Korean, and then all of a sudden the service gets better.
Really?
It's like actually insane sometimes.
Come tell me that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
like,
the only Korean I know.
I'm telling you, and they love that shit too. Like if you like try to say some like random Korean words around them, they're like, oh shit, they like our culture. Fuck yeah. And
no, I'm pretty sure she would just like. She'd be like, I can't. What is this Chinese guy trying to do? Speaking our language? We're going to charge him more rent. Yeah, no, I don't know. I just hope that all my leasing stuff works out well, because it's just been a really big stressful thing for like me and like the rest of the people I'm living with.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, like in Asia, like racism is like institutionalized there. Like, in their public education, they're just like, yeah, fuck these people, fuck these people, fuck these people. Like,
oh no,
like Korea, China, and Japan all fucking hate each other.
Like, it's not even like,
it's getting better now.
Yeah, it's not even just like within like the Asian races. Like my mom is like the biggest closet racist ever, and it's actually so funny because she she would be like, she just sees someone mowing a lawn and she'd be like, I wonder if they're Mexican. I'm just like, excuse me? And she's like, no, it's a serious question. I'm just like, excuse me? And she's like, do you think they're illegal? And I'm just like, excuse me? like it would just be like it'd be like if I introduced my friends to my mother, they'd be like, she's the nicest guy ever, but like the way that she's racist is just like, it just comes out naturally. And it's true for like all kinds of stuff, and it's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like straight up, like one of my relatives told me like, you can marry anyone you want, but they can't be black. I was like, what? How do you have any control? I just ignored them after that. But I was like, this is like the most racist thing ever.
Wait, Chinese people actually hate black people. Like, it's so funny. Like, if you go back and look at the Rogue One movie posters, like, you'll look at the American version and what's his name? The actor who plays the stormtrooper, like, I forgot what. I
don't remember his name.
But anyways, like, his character's pretty big in the movie, and he's like a pretty big part of the poster. And then you see the Chinese version of it, and he's like way smaller.
Really?
Yeah, they like hide him away. It's actually so funny.
Oh, but yeah, it's just really bad. That's how I always think about it. I just accept that it'll happen.
Yeah. I don't know. Eventually it'll get better. It's funny because like in America we are pretty sensitive to racial issues, right? But it's not actually quite like that in other places.
I think in America we're sensitive about everything, you know.
Yeah, we're just very sensitive.
It's like maybe overly so. It's like racial issues.
Yeah.
It's like
sexuality.
Yeah, it's like every gender. It's like, what am I? I am unspecified.
Yeah.
Gender neutral. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's like a thing now. Asexual.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny too.
Freedom is strange. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, American culture is actually so sensitive about certain things over other things. Like we hate sexuality and stuff. In general,
yeah.
Right? Like sexuality is like really
on
bad.
TV.
We complain about that shit constantly.
On TV, you gotta just ask anything. It better be rated like XXX if you show any kind of
any sort of nudity or sexuality. But if someone's getting their like brains blown up with a shotgun.
Yeah, it's like just
whatever.
Chopped up into pieces with katanas. Yeah. It's like,
it happens. You know, that's just life. And I don't understand why movie culture and just like in media in general, people are so much more okay with like violence and sexuality. It's like, people have sex. People shouldn't kill each other. Like, people should have sex. Go have sex. Don't kill people. Like, I don't know why that message gets like mixed up when it comes to media. They're like, oh my god, sexuality is so bad, but you know, punching people in the face and like killing people.
I just feel like it's all about culture, you know. Yeah. Like, so there's a lot of cultural differences, and they emerge in very strange ways.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
You know what? This is gonna go into something that it's gonna be uncomfortable to talk about. Let's switch the topic.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, well, Mad Cribbage was asking who plays guitar in the house, and it's me and Mark. Mark and I play guitar.
Well, you think I can't play guitar?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. For people who are asking, this is my Samurai Jack shirt. I bought this last year because they announced Samurai Jack would be released in 2016.
Yeah.
And so I was so hyped. I was like, I love Samurai Jack.
The trailers look awesome.
Yeah, the trailers, it looked kind of weird because you're shooting a gun in one of them. I thought that that was like a faux pas. Like, you couldn't ever shoot a gun. But whatever. So I bought this shirt a year in advance, and it's still not out yet. And I'm just like, all right.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, like
20 years later.
I'm hoping, like, seriously, it's going to come out at the same time, like, Fully Coolly seasons 2 and 3 are going to come out.
I want to be hyped for that. But it's like a different studio,
yeah, it's
right?
a completely different studio.
I don't know if Fully Coolly would be good if it wasn't for the insane producers behind the first season, right? Like, I feel like...
Oh, absolutely not. And so, I am... Oh, yeah. It comes out the 31st of this month.
Oh, wait, that's so soon.
Yeah, that's actually... That's at like right after Mass Effect Andromeda comes out.
I haven't played any of the Mass Effect games.
All right.
Like, not a single one. I like really want to...
Just tell me you hate space.
You
don't hate science
space.
fiction.
I love science fiction. Ender's Game was like one of my favorite books growing up.
All right, dude. You
Ender's
just don't
Game
like
was so
aliens.
good.
I get it.
they're aliens in Ender's Game.
Do you support the
aliens.
fence that cuts Mexico away from us? Is that it?
And the aliens away from the Earth's atmosphere? No, I don't. I'm down with the aliens.
All right, man.
Quote me on it.
I'm just saying.
But yeah, I don't know. Like people tell me to play Mass Effect, and I have it. I just haven't. I don't know. Ender's Game is garbage. Hey, Desert Shrub, you shut your.
Wait,
dirty
actually,
mouth.
Ender's Game is one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah, Ender's Game is so good, and I love the Shadow series too. It's so good.
The main series is actually terrible. Like I got like 3 books in. This was when I was really young. I started reading Xenocide when I was like 15.
That book is impossible to get through.
The book it like didn't make sense to my young like impressionable 15-year-old mind. Like I didn't have the vocabulary to understand the book.
Yeah.
And even afterwards, I went back to it. I was just like, wait. I don't even like this book.
Yeah, well, also, Orson Scott Card is also, like, apparently, like...
Oh, a terrible person.
Yeah,
like, not a good
terrible
person.
human being. I forget, he's, like, either, like, a neo-Nazi type of person or, like, hates women. Somewhere in that area of people.
I know, but I was just like... He wrote, like, the first book, and he wrote Speaker for the Dead, which is, like, completely...
Speaker for the Dead is pretty good.
They both won, like, enormous amount of awards, right?
Yeah.
And so I respect his ability to write, but his later books just weren't that good.
Actually bad. Like, after Speaker of the Dead, it was just like, what are you... Whoa, God, what are you saying?
Oh, yeah, okay, so yesterday, the SKT vs. KT series happened. The second one.
I didn't watch that series.
I didn't watch it either,
the first series.
but someone told me, someone told me I saw Talon...
Mark's having problem with
let's talk about Talon. Every Talon yesterday hard fed. It's actually so bad.
There was exactly one time that the Talons today looked good. It was like when Cobelter hopped the wall and like ran in and just like murked.
I actually think the fact that he got player of the game for that game was like...
Did he?
Yes, he did. Wait, you're on the desk? Did you vote for that
I
shit?
didn't cover that game.
Oh, you did
I
it?
watched that game, but we were covering the end of the...
Oh, yeah. Poborg got
Guys,
player of the game
Artemis
for
Fowl
that.
is heavily overrated. Just saying, putting that out there.
Artemis Fowl
It's heavily
What the
overrated.
fuck is wrong
I
with
just
you?
think
Get off my couch!
I think Death Note did that trope better. What can I say?
I don't remember Artemis Fowl's first book well enough.
Okay,
Wait,
wait. I want to
but-
clarify myself before people like go off on me because like I think that Artemis Fowl, the first book, because I only read like the first 2 books, but I felt like all the setups were like so overdone. It's like he is so smart, he has everything under control, and I was like, I don't know, it didn't feel like a struggle. It didn't feel like
What about Aragon?
Aragon was really good.
Aragon first book was so...
Aragon
The
first
second
book was really good.
too.
Second book was also
That
good.
series was garbage.
And then it went really downhill.
That series was so bad. I was just trying to... I was testing where your standards were at. You failed the test.
I think Aragon...
I've literally read like 3 books in the past 10 years.
I think... Okay, so
That's
Aragon,
why you're so
Not including...
low standards.
Not including science and shit like that, like, yeah.
Well, Aragon also, I looked through Rose-Tinted Glasses because I read it when I was in elementary school.
Yeah, I was like 15,
it's like,
dude.
I liked Redwall. Come on, like...
Wait.
Red
Redwall's so
But it
good.
doesn't...
The
It doesn't...
Badgers were badasses.
It didn't mature though.
No,
Like,
wait, yes.
Have you went back and read it?
Yeah,
It's terrible.
No, because when you read it, you just have to just look at it and be like, wow, they actually did write 15 paragraphs about the food, just describing the food.
Yeah, I think... Okay,
I don't consider that, like, impressive.
I don't either. I
don't
just thought it
think
was funny.
They're like, and then the otter put a whole gallon of pepper in his porridge.
So
And I'm like,
let
shut the
me
fuck
explain
up.
this. I think Redwall is a great series, but it's like clearly aimed at for kids, and like growing up, like it doesn't appeal to me anymore. Like I think like 6th grade or something, I actually dressed up as the Taggerung for Halloween or something because I loved those books so much.
Here's what you just read Name of the Wind, and then you stop reading books forever.
Oh, because the third one's never going to come out?
Because it's never gonna come out. Don't get your hopes up.
What? I read that book and I read whatchamacallit.
I need to read Name of the
The
Wind.
Game of Thrones series. So I know I'm just going to be unsatisfied for the rest of my life.
I mean, it's probably gonna happen anyways because life is meaningless. So
Whoa. Okay.
All right,
Anyways. Goodbye, Josh. Welcome to the main show.
did you tweet?
Post league. Yes, I did. Yes,
hey,
I did.
I tried to read Stormlight Archives. I couldn't get
Yeah.
into it.
Welcome to Post League Time. This is
We'll retweet this
my
shit.
host for the actual show. His name is Mark Zimmerman. He was on the analyst desk. That's why he's a little bit late today. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself?
How's it going, everybody? You just probably saw me on the analyst desk if you're just watching. I used to coach TL, all that jazz. Now I do this stuff. And I'm excited to talk
What an
about something-
upgrade, actually. Why are you giving me that look, dude? What are you saying?
I don't know.
Oh, we'll
I mean,
get
because like
we'll get
you're
more into
here,
Well, okay, it's either me or where they are.
What was the upgrade? Were you calling like TL upgraded from me, or were you saying that I upgraded from TL, or who are you throwing shade at there exactly?
I'm just saying you're a great guy.
Okay, thanks, man. You too. You too. How did you feel about today overall? Before we get into it,
I thought it's bad because the last series always leaves you with the most immediate impression. But I thought outside of the last series, it was okay. Wasn't bad.
I felt like I hated today. I felt like TSM versus Dig was bad. I felt like IMT versus Envy was bad, and TL versus Echo Fox was like all right because the newness of the storylines involved, but would have been bad otherwise.
Oh, are you talking about quality of games or entertainment wise?
Just both. I don't know. I just like I love the C9 FlyQuest series.
Yeah,
and I felt like TSM Dig was me like waiting to get into that series.
I thought because the TSM and Dig series was close, than I expected, it was not a bad day for me.
All right. That's fair. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a downer, but I didn't. I thought today was just like, I thought today was gonna be better. It just didn't do it for me.
I thought FlyQuest was gonna go to 3 games, but
we'll
talk about that when we get to it.
We'll get into that.
All right, let's start.
With TSM Dig. So this series for me was basically like Dignitas is like almost exactly who we thought they were.
I know. The thing is, I really wanted to argue with you on this. I was like, no, they're going to have different types of strategies. They're going to come out. They're going to have a playbook, and they're going to be like, okay, today we're going to run play 7B. And it's like, Mark is not right about Dignitas. They have different layers. They're multifolded like an onion, you know.
Gank for someday! That's the one strat they have is gank for someday. They did it game 1, and they got a small lead game 1, and then they kind of they did a Baron force, which I liked, and then they kind of threw that game and they lost because they forced Baron again and lost it. And then game 2 was literally like the most telegraphed fucking ganks in history, and against a Rumble who just absorbed them all and just like, you know.
Oh.
Anyways,
well, all right. Let's start game 1. The current meta is starting to seem like, I think someone clarified to me pre-season 4, where people picked Renekton and Elise, and your top laner 1v2 because he didn't win the lane. But 1v2s are removed from the game, so your top laner has to 1v1 versus Renekton and Elise. You 1v1 against Renekton and Elise is essentially you hoping the Renekton and Elise messes up.
Yeah, it's such a brutal dive because it's probably like the highest HP and like tankiness damage combo that you can get while also having like the ability to just disjoint the turret on Elise's repel.
Yeah, and they have pure CC. Like you just get stunned for like a full like 2 seconds.
Yeah, and they have so many ways of playing it too. Like Renekton can start off with a empowered W, and then like Elise can just go in for damage. Like they have so many ways of playing it. It's crazy. And generally, it's best if the Elise starts it out and then the Renekton gets the follow-up, but it can be a little hard that way.
I want to say, though, like, so the first game happens and they're slamming top lane. The style of play, I think, is actually well-suited for Dignitas. You harp on the fact that they only go top lane, and I think, okay, yeah, it's true. But if they wanted to do that, if this is their game plan, they want to win only through this style, Renekton and Elise is perfect for this style. This is, like, the best champions you can pick for this respective style, period.
Right, and game 1 was better than game 2. So game 1, they do that, and TSM punishes with a bot dive that went pretty well. They take turret right before that. Dignitas was like taking top turret to snowball. They gave up an Infernal Dragon to do so, and then TSM with their small lead, they go for like an invade on the bot side that Dignitas punishes. This is what you expect out of Dignitas. They can't make their own plays. They can only punish plays. They punish a TSM invade. They get a lead. And then I'm like, oh my God, we're going to be in for like a 50-minute game where Dignitas does nothing with this lead, and they slowly lose it as Renekton becomes more and more irrelevant and the game ends. But luckily, they force Baron. They just 50-50 Baron, which to me is actually an improvement for them. I don't know how you feel about it. I would rather see Dignitas go for more 50-50 Barons than do nothing.
I think that's an improvement, but
it's not good.
You're literally arguing like it's like the better of two evils.
Do nothing or do a bad play.
Yes,
and it's like for me, I'm leaning towards this.
I think the right one they can learn more from it.
Right. Like, if you do nothing, you don't learn much really. Whereas at least like if you do this play, not only might it win you the game, should you not get punished for it, but at the very least you're being proactive.
I thought the first game really showed something that I didn't want to see from TSM. And what is a team called? Team solo mid. I think their mid lane should always be something that doesn't scale. I don't like it when Bjergsen plays like a scaling champion.
The Azir?
Yeah, I think the idea of the comp makes sense, right? When mid jungle top hits 6, we'll just pressure mid lane with the Azir ulti. It's almost a guaranteed kill with Rengar Shen.
Yep.
And then they'll get mid tower. That's how I see it play out. There's a lot of variations.
You can go bottom with the Ash Arrow. There's a million ways.
There's a lot of variations on that. The problem with that comp is that you have no pressure mid lane because Cassio just wins the lane. You have no pressure top lane, and so you lose the entire top side of the jungle. And to be fair, they played it really well. I
thought they played it well.
They camped the side that they were 100% guaranteed to win, and they kept forcing action around the side and got leads. And so I thought Dignitas surprised me with how well they played, even if it's a strategy that we already assumed they would do.
Yeah, and I think to be fair to TSM taking the Azir, one, there was a lot of mid bans that game.
Oh, there's 4.
There's 4.
I don't count
I was about to say no. If you count Jace, because there's 5 if you count Jace.
Oh yeah. So there's 5.
Yeah, so there's 5. And then the thing about Dignitas is you say, okay, this team doesn't do anything. I can play Azir into that. Like I know I'm Bjergsen, I'm the star of the team. I'm like the catalyst for a lot of our stuff. But at the same time, I'm also a beast Azir player against this team that does nothing.
Right, but I just don't think that's like the way they want to go. Like, I don't even think they learned much from that game. It's just like we learned that like we can beat Dignitas
in late game situations.
Which is something that should already be guaranteed. Because in that comp, Dig has to dive, and they're not very good at doing that. Yeah. And so I knew 100% TSM would probably win that. Would win that game.
I was a little scared when Dig got their first Baron, and then they got like a 3-for-1 after they killed the people who contested the Baron.
I mean, I just saw Bjergsen's items. I was like, he's 5-item Azir. What is their plan to stop this guy?
Well, the other thing was when I realized TSM was fine was when with that Baron, Dignitas took like 1 inner turret. That was like their Baron power play. I was like, all right, man.
The only person who had the worst Baron power play was, I think, FlyQuest, and took and got negative gold advantage.
I mean, like, you can have worse Baron power plays when you, like, steal it, and then you get ace, and it's like, ah, shit, that's not even a Baron power play. Yeah. We just stopped their Baron, you know? But, like, this was legitimately one where, like, the winning team forced a Baron, got the Baron, and, like, did almost nothing with it.
Right, but I just wanted to highlight that, like, this is not a style of thing where they can maybe do this if they had a winning top lane as well, to be able to cover up Bjergsen's, like, losing pressure so that they can pressure mid from both sides. But if they do this strat again against a better team, I don't think it'll be very successful.
I can agree that like this would only really work against like a low tier team or a team that messes up early game. Because if a team plays the early game clean, they're probably gonna they should smash you probably.
But the thing is like TSM isn't necessarily well known for their early game. Like if you think off the top of your head,
fine.
Yeah, they're okay. But like when you think of early game teams, you're like Echo Fox plays early game really well. FlyQuest, and then like Envy, right? It's playing early games really well, and TSM's not in that ratio, so you already know their early game isn't as good as like even like one of the lowest rated teams. Like you wouldn't want to bank on the strategy.
No, not at all. And I mean, the way they lose the game is doing the same thing that they did. That we're like, yeah, good job, you did something. They go for a 50-50 Baron. This time he steals it. I mean, once again, it's just like a Rengar ulting into the pit and like, oh, okay, I got the Baron this time.
And the game gets so late that like when Renekton just gets outscaled, and Azir just dominates at that item range.
Yeah, and they got a bunch of dragons. So they got the first one because Dignitas prioritizing pressure topside.
And I will say this though, did you notice how many Infernals dragons there were today?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Unbelievable.
TSM always gets a ton of Infernals and
Not
mountains.
even that. I think it's the entire
day was like all Infernals and mountains.
Yeah, I think TSM ended with double Infernal and 1 mountain.
Yeah, something like that. It was pretty gross. So obviously you give like an Azir comp that like double Infernal, you're like, great, let's end the game. And eventually they just won. It was kind of like game got laid enough. They got outscaled. TSM's a better team. Not surprising. Game 2, there's like not that much to say. There's really not that much to say. It was like, okay guys, so we did this thing in game 1 where we picked Renekton and Lys, and we dove a lot. So we're going to do the same thing this time with Graves, who's not as good, and we're going to just camp the hell out of top lane, and it's a rumble, and
oh God. I remember game 2. Okay, so game 2 is, I thought their idea of how to keep Rumble down was actually very unique. Like, I like that he did a very cheesy gank top lane.
Well, the gank was cheesy.
And it wouldn't have worked if Hunter didn't play really bad. Like, but he had a lot of pressure going into it. And then afterwards, they failed the next gank, and the game's over. Like, the game is legit just, like, completely over. Because they put all the pressure topside, and he gets 2 for Ode. Diving the Rumble. At that point,
right,
like,
you can't, if you flub that dive, the game is literally over.
Yes, and then Hanser just pops off. He ends the game like 9 to 10 kills.
He had like every single kill for the first like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, he like ulties, and he harpooned Laud mid lane with Q, and Laud just died with 2 harpoons in
the
Q.
The funniest one was when they 4-man dove in bottom at like 20 minutes.
He gets a double kill.
He kills one, almost kills the other one, and then his team just gets Baron for free, and it's like, Dig, all you can do is fight top.
Yeah, and I think that really shows the relative strength of Rumble right now. Rumble is considered to be one of the best picks in the game, and Renekton came up with off the fact that he's one of the few picks that can pressure Rumble really hard.
He's one of the only tanky melee champions that actually beats Rumble.
Yeah,
and still serves a role.
And sets up great ganks for his team. Because Rumble's biggest problem is like he's really easily ganked because he doesn't have much mobility. Yeah. And Renekton really encourages that weakness.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't hate the idea of Dignitas being, we have the superstar top laner, let's snowball the superstar top laner, but it's just like, you have to be slightly more creative. You have to, like, so many of these ganks were so telegraphed, and, like Hanser just knew they were coming. Like, it feels like if you play against Dignitas, just be like, okay, they're going to poop on our top laner. To be fair, I was surprised that they did not have Sven Scarra in position more often to, like, be ready for that counter gank.
I think they're more scared of if Sven's in position, then they just call the gank off and they win the 2v2 anyways. And so he has to be in a very strict timing where he comes in right as soon as they engage and cleans up. And Sven was on the Rengar game 1.
Yeah.
And then game 2, I think he was
Kha'Zix.
He's on Kha'Zix. So it's like the champion doesn't have much mobility to like get into the fight quickly.
It's really dangerous to jump in as Kha'Zix versus a Rumble.
Or Renekton.
Renekton.
Yeah. You get stunned instantly, you die.
Yeah. So, like, I understand, like, you need to play it safe, but, like, he could have covered those ganks, but I think it turned out better than, like, rather than covering them, Hanser just turned them.
They got lucky. Like, straight up, they got really lucky with Hanser being able to turn a gank completely because they misplayed.
Yeah.
And then, because mid lane was roaming, he gets that double kill, the game's over.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I agree with you. Not much to say. Let's move on.
Yeah, honestly, it's like, Dig does exactly what you think Dig is going to do. TSM does exactly what you think TSM's going to do. Series is over. TSM wins 2-0.
Do you have anything to say about the rest of TSM? Like, I thought that they just played what you expect from them.
I think it's nice to see them winning on Rumble a little bit. There was that concern that, like, they can't win on Rumble, but I think they did it a couple times this week, and I think you need to be able to play Rumble right now. I think it's too strong of a pick to just ignore and say, like, we just won't play it, we'll counter it, that kind of stuff.
And you should just look at this week's top lane picks. Like, if you have any indication of top lane Rumble or Renekton straight right now, every single game.
Yeah, and I think it's, especially with Rumble, there's so much physical damage in the league right now that, like, having a player who can play Rumble top is huge. And I think you basically need to be able to do that.
Like Graves, Jace mid.
Kha'Zix, Rengar.
There's no good AP.
Talon, Zed.
Yeah, there's no good AP picks in the AD position, so you have to pick it physical damage there. And even as support, you'd prefer, like, a shielding one over, like, even Karma doesn't do that much damage, as opposed to, like, a Zyra. She's kind of fallen off. So
yeah.
You're not given many options right now in AP damage.
Yeah, so obviously Rumble, high priority. TSM did okay with it this weekend.
All right, cool.
That's all.
Next game.
Next game. Fox versus TL. Fox versus TL, the return of Midlet. Second series, still a god? Still a god? Is he still the best mid laner ever? Is he still NA Faker?
You want to tell me that? You want to
No,
talk?
I'm someone asking you.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
a fan. Like, Scarra, how good is Midlet now after
Okay,
your second?
so you remember yesterday where it was like, oh yeah, we'll put Midlet, Piglet into the same tier we put Ryu and Froggen and Huhi, stuff like that, you know? And that
then he played Froggen in that tier today.
Yeah, and Froggen, like, just...
It wasn't so bad the first couple games.
No.
But it was still bad. It was still bad. But, like, game 3 was the, like, oh my god, what is Piglet even doing? Does he play Ori mid ever?
Okay, so... Let's go over the games. So start us off.
All right, so game 1, it was mostly Echo Fox. It was like TL was doing okay. Echo Fox went for an invade. Matt roamed, punished it. Like, Acadian was being a little aggressive. He does this a lot. It happened a fair amount over the course of the series, actually, where Acadian goes for an invade and dies for it, or at least, like, gives something up. But then right after that, like 10 minutes into the game, TL just loses the dragon fight, like 1 for 3. Youngbin plays it awful. Reignover plays it awful.
Oh.
Everyone sucks. And then Fox, like, swap top. They, like, after the dragon puts dragons down, they start mowing down turrets. And then, like, I don't know. It's just over. Like, Echo Fox wins engages. It's a 3-0. It's, like, not that close. Piglet picks Vladimir. We can get into this a little bit more when we do, like, a big game breakdown of it. And then TL wins game 2 to make it a 3-game series, because I love when Team Liquid forces game 3s and just loses anyways, which seems to be like what they do.
Let me talk about game 2.
You take game 2.
Game 2 is essentially the idea that Equifox gets ahead a really big lead early. And the reason why they're not able to close out is because they don't play around the correct carries. So this is a game where literally you're looking at Froggen. He's 4-1-4 on Anivia. People try to come in. The bot lane tried to cover the tier 2 mid lane. The 80 dies.
Yeah.
The support dies.
they just walk up and there's like, oh shit, there's a wall behind me.
Yeah, and it was like, it was at the point where I was just like, there's no way Echo Fox can lose this game. But lo and behold, one of the difficulties playing with Anivia is that she can't dive. So if you're looking to make aggressive plays, what you do with Anivia in that comp is, one, Kha'Zix should not have skilled E at level 11. So, because he can't do anything. If you watch,
there's no one to go in on that comp at
if
all.
you ever jump in as Kha'Zix, you're dead. And a good example is when he tried to siege mid, he Renekton flank, he tried to jump on the Renekton, got exhausted, died instantly.
Yep.
So what they do is they work around the Anivia wall with Kha'Zix W poke, and I think they had Jin poke, and that's it. And then they walk up, the other team has legit no initiation almost. Their initiation is Lorlo flanking. That's like, and to be fair, he had a great flank in the middle of the game. But TL played that.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about this game, but it's honestly just like Froggen was in a position to hard carry this game, and Echo Fox just fucked it up.
Echo Fox did not play around Froggens in mobile team comp. The other team had to dive or outpoke them. They couldn't do that 100%, or they had to flank. They did that once really, really well, but it shouldn't have been that bad for them, and Echo Fox lost.
And then game 3 is just abysmal. Like, I mean, even game 2 was abysmal. Like, Youngbin just does some stuff that makes your head spin. Like, you just, I don't know. Like, you think you're going blind. You're having, like, an aneurysm. You're like, this can't be right. Like, it's brutal. And once again, like, Akaden gets punished this game, but then Piglet's just getting destroyed in lane. Youngbin's getting destroyed in lane. Piglet builds the worst items ever on Orianna. They get absolutely smashed.
Well, it's like, okay, coming into this new revamped TL roster, you know what you're going to get. They're going to pressure top side of the map, and bottom side of the map is going to lose. And you hope they don't lose that hard. And so, but whatever cannot happen, what absolutely cannot happen is Piglet losing. And not
he can be behind, but he can't get smashed.
He can't lose this hard. This is like I think of the entire season, this is the hardest the mid laner has lost.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, did you look at that game and it's like, holy shit, what happened? Froggen, dude, calm down. You're just like silent on this guy.
Ugh.
And oh god, okay, so I want to go jump back to game 1.
I want to talk about a little bit about how much resources TL gives to Piglet in the draft, and how sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, go for it.
So in game 1, TL is last picking for Piglet, and they give him Vladimir because Echo Fox has Rengar Ahri, and just yesterday they annihilated mid lane with that matchup.
Well, the thing about that, and I specifically know this matchup because I used to play. Vlad got played a lot.
Yeah,
Vlad was the premier counter pick for Ahri when Vlad
was good.
Vlad was good. So right now the revamped Vlad is actually not that good into Ahri, but it's still like I would say even. You know what happened in this lane phase? Piglet was down 20 CS before, of course, what happens. You know, the enemy jungler suicides at their raid camp. Not suicides. He goes in for the invade, and Piglet cleans up.
Yeah,
and Piglet gets 1 kill, and so it like even out, and people probably were thinking like, oh, dude, Piglet's pretty good. When I was watching this matchup, I was like, Froggen has all the pressure. He's actually playing really well.
I don't even like the pick anyways, because all that pick does is survive Echo Fox's early game, and then it's useless mid to late game. Like, it doesn't synergize with your comp that well at all, where you have like Camille like as the only other thing that's going to dive in. And it's like, I thought it was an awful like dive comp where like it's just like it doesn't do that.
I think it only works if he gets an advantage in lane. And then he could run with
right,
superior damage. Right.
So Vladimir is a pick that even when it was at the height of its power, a lot of mid laners were saying that they didn't actually think it was that good. But if you made a single mistake against it and it got ahead, then you couldn't deal with it. So like as long as you didn't lose to Vladimir wasn't that good. But he was just like impossible not to lose a little bit of an advantage to. So it was just like this weird thing where people were like, he's not that great. A lot of people thought that, but once he got his like cowl and like got his like hex tech proto belt, you're just like, fuck, I can't get this guy off me.
The thing about the new Vladimir is you can't build defensively to do damage anymore because they change the ratios to you building MR, you building like Visage isn't very effective. You have to build damage and just try to outplay the laning phase, or else you're not going to be effective mid game. And so like, seeing that he had to back to buy Negatron, which is probably right, but then it just sucks to be in that position where like Vlad just doesn't get going till like later, and you have to like see it so well at the very beginning to be able to make up for your early game deficit, and that's not what Piglet did.
Yeah, Piglet CS poorly. He's losing the game, and TL kind of gets rolled after they lose like the one fight. And there's random fights that like Echo Fox just loses over the course of this series. I don't remember if there was one game 1, but there was a bunch game 2 that cost them the game. And then game 3 even it like wasn't clean.
Well, the game 2 one, I just think they didn't play well around their win condition, which was essentially Froggen. I also thought the game 2, I think this was the game 2 draft was really weird because was it the one where they had
Camille
Anivia? Yeah. So this is like, if you're Echo Fox, why would you ban Rengar from TL? Like,
I don't know. I say like the only thing that like Reignover carries on, like Reignover does okay on other stuff.
Reignover only hard carries on Graves.
Yeah.
He's had so many games where he plays Graves and he's like, oh, he just went off.
He's 608. He's 10-0
Yeah.
Like,
so like, what does Fox do? We're gonna last ban Rengar, and then they first pick Graves. It's like, well, just give them Rengar because Reignover has shown throughout the entire split that his Rengar is at best average.
Yeah.
And his Graves is actually really good. And so
yeah, it's just like ban the Graves, give him the Rengar, take the Kha'Zix, take that matchup. You're fine in it. You know you'll be fine. And
they even handled it well early, and they just so happened that they just didn't team fight well.
Well, yeah. So they had a huge lead, and like there was that horrendously, like if you want to see the ugliest play in NA season history for this split at least, just go watch like the 13-minute dive on mid lane or 15:30 when. Youngbin starts his Jhin ultimate while an Anivia has an ult on top of him. It is like the most baffling play in history where it's like, are you... Anyways, TL wins that game because Lorlo gets a couple beast flanks off. Echo Fox has no idea how to win with their comp. And then it's actually, they don't have any way to deal with a Renekton that they couldn't kill. Because... they're like really magic damage heavy where it's Rumble and Nivea, and then you have Kha'Zix and Ezreal, and then their only CC really that's locked down is Camille. It's like, you're gonna Camille ult the Renekton who's just gonna kill the Camille now? Like, they had no way to deal with that because he just generates a bunch of space, and then like Jhin and Syndra are fishing for stuns and roots, and Graves is just auto-attacking like his closest target. And they didn't have a front line on Echo Fox's side.
Yeah, it was like maybe harder to
it's hard to execute.
But like they had the big enough lead to where it should have been theirs.
Yeah, they should win that game, hands down. Like, I don't know how you lose that game, but they managed to. And I mean, Piglet had like a pretty good game. He had like one over-aggressive play. He wasn't as ahead as he should have been. But he made enough like stuns in place, like be like, okay, yeah, not bad.
It was okay.
Yeah,
like, I think easily Lorlo won them the game.
Or Lorlo and Reignover won them the game.
Yes,
yep.
And so we're pretty much closing and wrapping up the series.
Yeah.
All my thoughts are just really on their bot lane. You know, the TL sacrificed so much to make sure Piglet gets mid lane. They brought in someone doesn't play the bot lane position. He's playing bot lane for them, and at first we're like, oh, it's bad, but you know, maybe he gets better. And this is his first week, but some of the games with Youngbin right now are looking pretty ugly.
So it's basically like what I said in the desk was like, Piglet looks better at mid lane than Golden Glue looked at mid, or he looked at AD carry. Like, if you ranked him positionally, he's better as a mid laner than like either of those two positions were. But Youngbin is substantially worse as an AD carry than Golden Glue was as a mid laner, or Piglet was as an AD carry. So you basically took like two pretty bad players and made like a decent one and one awful one.
And I think on top of that, and the worst thing for me is that Matt is not having a good season. Like, he's not like a superstar. He's not even like
average,
a top 5 support right now. And so he can't help carry a lane if the AD carry isn't good. Like, he was barely doing well when Piglet was playing. Like, and so their entire bot lane just feels very much like they're gonna go 2-8 every game.
They're not even like a hold on bot lane. Like, we talk about hold on bot lanes. Like, yeah, we're gonna get stuff down the top side, just don't lose too bad. They're like a
what time are they gonna lose the tower?
Should you even show up to lane? Would you be better like jungling or something? Like, can we put both of you in the jungle and like don't mess with Reignover? Like,
a lot of the times I feel like they'd be more effective if they just warded a lot and then just left the tower on the 4-man dives. And if they did,
I forget. Maybe I said it on the desk. I was like, this bot lane every time. As soon as the top lane turret bonus armor drops off, swap him topside and start trading turrets. Like, get him out of lane ASAP.
I think that's the smartest thing they can do, because if you have a weak bot lane, you need to crutch on that and just like find better ways to you make them work.
Yeah. So game 3, the Ori, the build was awful. He didn't get like any sort of mana sustain. He didn't have Lost Chapter. He didn't have anything. He like just got pushed in over and over. I don't know how this happened. It was like 4 minutes in. It was like 7 CS to like 20. I was like, how do you have 7 CS? What even happened?
This matchup is hard for the Ori player, or if the Ori doesn't know how to play the matchup. It's actually...
That's a lot of Victor matchups. And I was surprised they didn't take Cassio.
Yes.
Because Cassio is supposed to be good into Victor,
Yeah,
right?
the thing is, Ori is good to Victor after 6-2. But you have to know how to play the early game to be able to, like, transition it well. And I don't even think he played the mid game well.
No.
So, like, he just got, like, dumpstered by Frogger.
Doesn't Cassio have a better 1-5, though, against Victor?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why... And he played Cassio well yesterday, or Friday. So I thought for sure they were going to take Cassio last, and then they go Ori, and it's like, look, I don't know. The whole thing, disaster there. They got smashed everywhere. And somehow they still won like 3-for-3 fights randomly. It was like, goddamn, Echo Fox, how bad is your late game team fighting? Their late game team fighting is atrocious.
So one of the biggest things we point out from last week when they went 0-2, Looper didn't look too good last week. And this week, we're like, similar to Impact, we're like, is he going to bring it back?
Hard no.
Yeah.
Hard no.
I think Looper is steadily falling down, like, off the rails, and you need to be very, very careful if you're an Echo Fox fan because he is...
Cass was banned? Am I crazy?
He's not looking very well. Okay. No, they said he wasn't banned in Game 3.
Yeah, what the fuck? Go fuck yourself, you idiot.
Anyways, let's move on. Let's go to the next series.
Yeah, next series. Are we doing C9 FlyQuest right now? We're doing
so.
C9 FlyQuest. Yeah, let's end the stream with that Snoozer Immortals Envy Series 2. Let's get hype right now for C9 FlyQuest. Because this was so funny to me coming into chat, or coming into the series where it's like, are they going to play Mord? Is Mord going to get banned? All this random talk about Mord.
I can't believe they got 2 Mord bans, which I feel like they knew they were going to get.
Yeah.
And
I think playing Mord versus Envy was like legitimately just a massive red herring. I think they were just like, let's win. Like, we can beat Envy with like anything. Yeah. Let's play Mord. And then C9 is going to freak out and ban Mord. And I think that's like, I think that was their mentality.
Yeah, I thought they were really smart. But the problem is, it's like, I actually thought Contracts just played well the first game. Like, when you think, it's weird because Contracts is usually hovering mid lane so much, but he got top lane a little bit earlier than Moon twice. And he started to snowball too early against balls for impact, and then they just ran with the game with Camille. Like, you just don't do anything when your Camille's 3-0 or 2-0 and, like, has, like, insane pressure.
Right.
And they couldn't find any way to do anything except for... let's just do Baron.
Yeah.
Woo!
I mean, that's FlyQuest a little bit in a nutshell, which is kind of disappointing right now. We're like, I don't know. Like, obviously, Contracts deserves a lot of credit for getting them ahead, and like Impact was decent. Maybe went like too deep one time, but it did feel like just sad. I don't know that like FlyQuest just does Baron and C9 just does Baron. Like, neither of them felt great. Like, C9 FlyQuest is just too aggressive.
The problem with, I think a lot of the problem with this is that, like, usually what happens is that High is on a champion where he can solo make plays. But if he's stuck to Ori has to work off of someone else.
Even then, in Game 2 in particular, we'll get into a little more, he was making, like, he was the only reason that, like, FlyQuest is close in that game. He had a ton of, like, big Ori ults.
Yeah, he had to, but the thing is like, that's above what you would expect from an Ori player.
An Ori player can't expect Ezreal and Syndra to repeatedly walk over the ball.
Right.
Which is what happened.
And so, like, okay, first game, what ends up happening is just C9 gets a lead late, top lane. FlyQuest isn't able to get much around the map.
Yep.
And then they lose. FlyQuest forces a random Baron. It's just completely random, and they were hoping they were able to get something. They didn't. They got ace. Camille wins the game, and the entire game's over.
It was just like this steady climb for C9's like gold lead over the course of the game.
Second game
was a lot closer.
Oh, was super. I thought FlyQuest had this game like it was done, ready and finished. High hit some great shockwaves. It was like really sloppy at the beginning.
There was like that weird invade that got Moon killed, or Contracts killed, and then Contracts got like a ton of camps taken away from him, and he was like behind.
Yeah, and so like they FlyQuest had pretty much the best level 1 opener you can get. They did 3 sides of the jungle, and their bot lane got red buff with MarkZ. And so FlyQuest is off to a great early game. They got a lead, and I thought they were just gonna run with it with Ori constantly ulti mid lane and putting a lot of pressure. He split even CS with Jensen, which I think is good.
I thought it was really impressive. And I wasn't sure because I wasn't watching super close, but I didn't know how much of that was like Jensen not being able to play the matchup as aggressively as he normally would because of what was happening to Contracts in the jungle. I wasn't sure because when you think about Jensen, Syndra versus High Orianna, you think like 20 CS lead because they, we saw the Corki versus Syndra, obviously not the same matchup, but like Jensen has destroyed High before.
I think Jensen, it's obviously that because especially when they play against each other, FlyQuest is known to like just come in with like
Well,
the
yeah.
kitchen sink. Like the bot lane comes mid, the top lane comes mid, and the jungle comes mid. And so Jensen, like, I guess, played it safer or more safe than he usually does. And because of that, I thought Hai got a lane at like a really, really good CS level, item level, XP level, was able to hard impact the game. And then they got Baron. It was looking great. And then he moved up. And what ends up happening is that 2 fights in a row, Impact just plays like a monster. Like Impact, the what you call it, C9's team comp is really hard to play, and it essentially just revolves down to the fact that like Hai needs to get good ulti off. And Hai can't die before his ulti goes off.
You mean FlyQuest comp was hard.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because I was like, C9's comp is like pretty standard.
Sorry.
Yeah, C9 FlyQuest, everyone messes it up.
I messed them up. So
yeah, everyone's gonna mess that
FlyQuest
up.
comp is really hard to play, and Hai can't die before he gets his ulti off. So he has to position, but he has to step up to position a good ulti. And so what happens is Impact in last two team fights just is able to target Hai in really, really creative ways or good ways to where he puts them in bad positions where Hai just dies instantly.
Yeah, and to talk a little bit about FlyQuest shot calling, it's a lot of forcing like really risky Barons, which I think is kind of annoying to watch because you know they're a smart team in terms of like finding opportunities and looks to generate plays that I don't think they need to like opt into 50-50 Barons. Like this isn't Dignitas, right? This isn't a team that like can't get anything done if they're not forcing a 50-50.
To be fair, I think they force a 50-50 and then turn off of it a lot of times.
Well, right. They're definitely better than the people who just like let it come down to a random ass smite fight.
I think they use it more as a tool to bait than a lot of other teams. And so like I don't even consider a lot of what they do as 50-50 Barons. It's more like at some point below X amount of value, they just say YOLO, right?
Well, that's what I mean. It's not like a 50-50 Baron, like we're just standing there and two people are going to smite it, but they're like 50-50 Barons in the chance, or like 50-50 chance we throw here. So it's not 50-50 they steal the Baron. It's 50-50 we legitimately get ace at this Baron.
I think it's a little bit better.
Did you see the one where like they win a fight at 26 minutes, they're all low in the fight, they chase Nautilus down, they're all the way like Dragon basically? It's only 26
and
minutes.
Lulu's like...
They run all the way to Baron, start Baron off, and try and do it. And like Moon has to like flash this random Xell and then ult backwards as Grace to get back into the pit to smite it. And you're like, why don't you guys just fight him again? Like, why don't you just go reset off the map because you just want to fight? Like, it feels like for me like FlyQuest just goes a little too ham. And if they cut off a couple of those ham plays, they're probably a better team. Like,
right.
It's hard to tell.
I think if they smooth out their decision making, it's definitely better.
Right, because it feels hard to tell FlyQuest what to do because they're obviously like, you know, really good at playing aggressive and high tempo games. And I don't want them to change that, but I just think like one or two of the Barons specifically, the Baron plays specifically, like just ease up a little bit. That's all I can say. Like,
Okay. So my biggest takeaway from this series is that I was worried about Impact last week. I think Impact this week, phenomenal. Played really well.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like best in top lane as he was before. I think Hansu had a great week as well.
Yep.
But he's definitely like very, very good. Like top 3 essentially. Like, I thought his play this week was really good, and that's very promising for C9 because everyone has periods of time where they play poorly. What makes a great professional player in any sport is just high level consistency, and I think that. The Impact's back. That's all I want to say.
Impact's definitely back this week. He had 2 good series, especially this last game 2, when it looked like they weren't going to win. He had like just 2 monster team fights in a row where he just like set his team up to win. One where like FlyQuest was like pushing the inhib down, like they should be winning the game, and then like he sets up Jensen to blow up all tech and stuff like that. And then the next time they're getting a free Baron, he TPs in with home guards and like just makes a huge play. So huge game out of Impact. Jensen and Sneaky were not particularly impressive in team fighting, I didn't think.
I thought Jensen made more positioning errors, especially in the second game than I'm usually used to.
I think I've seen him make it all this year.
But I also think, didn't he start like 0-3? That
He was struggling on Syndra for sure, and a lot of it was because like he was getting some attention from FlyQuest. But Sneaky in particular would just like get hit by shockwaves all the time in team fights. Where like,
especially because he was playing Ezreal, correct?
Yeah, he was playing Ezreal, and so like what would happen would be like contracts on Rengar would go in or Impact would go in, and like they'd all like chase. Because, so the way a lot of team fights started was Contracts jumps in, Malzahar ults him, he cleanses it and runs away, and then C9's like, aha, their Malzahar ult's down, let's go in. And then they just run onto the Ori ball, and it's like, ugh.
Yep.
It was rough.
I don't even know what to say about that series, because I thought that FlyQuest would bring out a better game. And I don't really know if it's because I think C9's team fighting is just better than them.
Oh, for sure.
And so when they try to break down early skirmishes, and FlyQuest I think is really good in the chaotic skirmishes, like early game skirmishes, it's really good. But when it comes down to team fighting, they just can't out team fight C9 most of the times. And so that's probably what the series ended up being.
Yeah, and I think I would have liked to have seen a 3-game series. It was a close series though. I think I'm a little concerned on FlyQuest because like the Envy series was a 3-game series as well, not super clean. They were playing Mordekaiser and like random shit. But I'm concerned that like the things that made us hesitant about FlyQuest at the start of the split are starting to crop up. I don't think they're individual players that was like a big problem we thought was going to be. Like their individual players are not weak, but they're still like a little over aggressive and crazy.
Yeah, I don't want them to be a team that picks random stuff to be random. I think in this series they definitely like kind of stabilized their picks.
Yeah.
They pick more and more because they got banned and played way more standard than they're used to. But still, sometimes when I see their drafts now, I'm just like, is this really good? Is this like the ideal thing? And I don't really know.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways.
Moving
next
on.
Series. The
To
best
everyone's
one
favorite
today.
series, let's go.
Yes.
You guys got to watch one series this week. It's got to be IMT versus Envy. This series had it all. It had Dardoch kind of like not playing that great, and Lyra doing all right.
It had Elise Dardoch and it had non-Elise Dardoch.
Yeah, and it had Talon. It had a mediocrely played Talon. I like watching Talon. I mean, he hops over walls. I said he's the coolest looking champ in the game. I maintain if bad teams want to just pick Talon so I can watch Talon play and make me like their series, that's fine. I don't care if the Talon flips over a wall and
Holy
suicides.
moly.
All the animations for his jumps, I'm like, yeah, I'm not sick of those yet.
I just remember looking at this and thinking something very specific. Well, first of all, what happened? First game was Pobelter played Talon.
Yep, Pobelter got the Talon pick.
And Immortals is off to a great opener.
Yeah.
Pobelter gets level 2 solo kill on mid lane. One, that should never happen. I don't know what that was. But he
Yeah.
got the kill, and I think Dardoch also
Had
got
a couple ganks.
No, Dardoch had the first but top lane. So the game, I think, in my opinion, at that point, early game is just over. Like, mid-game lost way too early. The other mid laner can't even farm the wave well anymore. He has to force the TP immediately back. And it's so hard for Echo to recover if you give Talon a free longsword. And on top of that, Elise is snowballed like crazy. Like, she could just dive top, because they did the top lane dive where you're just like, oh, the top laner can't do anything.
Yeah, and then they took turret at like 13 minutes.
And
or
then
something.
what ends up happening? Here, Dardoch goes top again like he should. You know, he's camping the lane that he's set behind. And then he finds the other jungler. And what does he do? Okay, the other jungler, he sits in the bush. Other jungler checks him. He chunks the other jungler to 10%. Other jungler flashes away. Dardoch has to flash off.
You have to. You gotta kill him.
He can't control himself.
Can't take the pressure.
He flashes back after him, gets a kill, of course, and then dies to the top laner. So he loses his lead to the other top laner. And at the same time, Pobelter makes a bot lane invade to bot side jungler to try to kill the enemy jungler, and then gets exhausted too close to the bot lane and gives Caitlyn a free kill after the bot lane's winning by 20 CS. And I'm just like, oh my god. Immortals started off to such a great early game. Like, it was like a phenomenal early game for Immortals, and they just like messed it up. And sure, they were able to recover, but it was such a sloppy game from them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big thing was, like you said, they managed to recover. It was never really out of their control, not significantly. And they did end the game. I think it was like a long 30-minute game.
A lot of the reason why it wasn't significantly out of their control is because I think that they, at least comparatively to their opponents, understood how to control areas better. So
they got a free Baron for once. I was like, yes!
Exactly. A lot of their vision control is good, and they know how to get picks, especially when Dardoch's on Elise. And so that's why, for me, the MVP of this game was Dardoch, because he was in the right positions to get picks more often than not. And then he does the Dardoch thing where he just sometimes kills himself.
Yeah, but
that's what,
like, game one Dardoch is what you want out of Immortals, and then you get to like win the game as long as Dardoch plays that level, and the rest of the team's fine. And Cody actually, not just game one, he played a great series overall, I'd say, and great, you know, with a grain of salt. This isn't like arrow level great, but great for Cody. He generally won lane. He generally team fought well. He had reasonable ultimates on all the utility carries. I thought he played good, and it felt like it was more the rest of the team letting him down.
I thought their bot lane played well this week.
Yeah,
like,
I like their bot lane.
But they played against TL and Envy, so it's hard for me to...
Well, so what's hilarious is IMT just went 0-2 to the two worst teams in the league.
Yes.
Well, maybe not hilarious, like depressing as shit if you're an Immortals fan. I don't know.
Ha-ha.
I'm not like a big Immortals fan, so I think it's like, haha, and then some other people are like, haha. But yeah, I thought Cody played pretty good. Anyways, game one, it's what you expect for the most part if you're going to watch this series. Maybe not quite as much out of Lyra as you would have hoped. Game two is a bit of a tragedy. Remember game two?
Fill me in a little bit.
They had that roam bottom. They have this is the Ahri game from Pobelter where like there's like Immortals grabs an early lead. Things are going like pretty well. They have some nice roams. Some of them don't quite work out. They trade some kills where like Immortals goes top lane and Envy goes bottom lane, and it's kind of like a little bit of a slugfest. But for the most part, you know, Pobelter's getting fed on Ahri.
Yeah, he starts 3-0. I think it's looking at 2-0-1. He's looking great.
I think he was 3-0 even actually. And then 20 minutes, there's a Baron fight. Ashe, Cody's son hits the enemy AD carry. Camille's TPing him from the flank. This is going to be a great fight. And then Pobelter's like, I got this shit. I got this shit. Let's go. And he just like flash ults Zanya's right at the AD carry, and he's in the middle of 4 people. And this team's like, dude, what are you doing?
I think he got so hypey watching Froggen play Ahri and Piglet play Ahri. It's like, dude, these guys think they're good. Watch this. Hold my apple juice.
Yeah.
And then he just like dove into the backline. And the worst thing is he just gets double exhaust.
Yeah.
So he can't do that kind of dive. It's very, very difficult because he's going to get exhausted by either of them. Guaranteed every single time.
They're winning that fight anyways with the Camille flank. He just needs to sync it up so that he starts ulting in hard when the Camille like isolates whoever they're trying to go for or something. And they just everywhere on that play.
Yeah.
And that throws the game. It lets Envy start stalling out. Pobelter starts like they try and keep making plays on the Jace and they keep failing. And then Pobelter keeps like getting picked.
Like you know what's the problem when like Ninja starts like even and then like falls a little bit behind and then suddenly he has 5 kills and you're just like, wait, what on earth happened?
Like Ninja recovering from behind is crazy to me. Like Ninja with the death of Golden Glue seems like he might be the worst mid in LCS. And to be fair, he like CS as well and he lanes decently, but he's like so erratic.
Yeah.
And so when he starts bad, you expect him to be done for the game. And that didn't happen. So I think he deserves a lot of credit in this game because he actually ended up really fed.
Yeah, I thought he like legit hard carried this game almost.
Yeah, I mean the damage charts were like really spread out because they just had like a super high damage team comp. But the fact that he absorbed a lot of pressure in side lanes and like all the plays were centered around Ninja was super good. And then like they got the one pick on Pobelter top side, they grabbed the Baron. I mean this game still goes on forever because these two teams are not good.
I thought that was relatively easy for Immortals to try to break it down to just like a Camille split push situation.
But they never did.
But it ended up being a situation where they always wanted to fight. And they just got that, it got to like a pick war where, it turns out that like Lyra just like was able to be more positions above Dardoch or like as comparative to Dardoch.
Right.
And then they were just able to win the pick war and then just win the game. Whereas Immortals could have easily gotten a situation where, you remember FlyQuest vs. C9 game 1? What does FlyQuest do against Camille? It's nothing.
Yeah.
Camille is just godlike.
Yeah, they split the Camille, they bring the jungler up to pressure objectives, and then like they have the TP potentially join in on the flip. Like it never felt like it's like, okay, Flame, you split, we'll go there. It was always like, okay, Ahri's splitting against the Jace, and now Ahri's dead. Which isn't like even splitting the Ahri against the Jace isn't even like inherently wrong.
It's not that bad, but
Yeah.
like it just they had so many deaths in the side lanes and they were never able to get the pressure going for a good split push.
Right, and that's a problem. I mean, like Camille's team fight's fine, but from even, it's not that great.
They just had the ability to put Camille. Like I think Camille could have gone off.
Yeah, I think this is a game Camille definitely could have gone off. We move into game 3 because the series, just went on forever. It was just like the kind of like the Lyra show a little bit this game. He definitely put on a little bit of a clinic. He had the level 3 dive top as well with the Renekton Elise, is what we're saying is going to become pretty meta.
And the top laner just cries, just starts bawling. Like I feel so bad for top laners right now because when I see this gank coming, I'm just like, the top laner can't do anything but leave the tower or have his jungler be there.
Yeah.
And if he leaves the tower, he loses like a ton. So he a lot of times he has to sit there and pray to God he can outplay Renekton Elise. And it's like, you can't. It's fundamentally the Renekton Elise has way more potential to kill you than you do of outplaying this like brutal CC like dive comp.
Yeah, and then Dardoch had that play around mid. It wasn't even his fault. Like Pobelter flashed the wall randomly.
Oh, honestly, I think Pobelter just didn't know that Talon had exhaust. He had slipped his mind. And so
Do you think that's what it is?
Yes, because I'm almost positive Pobelter gets that kill. But
what happened? Exhaust, he flashes Qs.
He flashes Qs, and then literally he gets exhausted during the flash, And I'm just watching Pobelter, and I can already see the gears turning.
You're probably wondering how I got here.
Yeah, and it's like I lost the game, and so that was definitely a bad mistake by Pobelter. Like that's something where it's like I don't think Pobelter is the reason why the series went to shit, but this last game. Talon is getting the most random kills before level 5, and I'm just like, this should not happen.
Well, and then like to be fair, Envy like didn't play cleanly. It was they like made a roam bottom, and like instead of pushing the turret like the wave in, or they had a lot. So like this dive was so bad from so many ways. Like one, they have a lot of vision bottom, and they see Immortals is reacting, so you should probably call it off. 2, they don't even have the wave in, which I mean you can't really wait for the wave because Immortals is collapsing, but you should always do this dive with the wave anyways. And then 3, without the wave, with Immortals collapsing, like, yeah, let's go do this dive. And Ole played it well. Ole played it really well.
Ole played that as best as he could have, but there's no reason why they should have given him the chance to play it that well. Like,
right, yeah.
If they know the support has no sums, you just... Or not the support, AD has no sums, you just... Talon just immediately goes over the wall, ulti Qs, which is what he ended up doing anyways, but they got hit with double silence at a really... bad point, and then they couldn't finish off the AD. Like, that's completely their fault. That dive right there, I was just like, wow, Immortals can just win this game. Like, straight up. I thought Immortals swung the game back because it was such a terrible dive to happen to the players that are doing the most for them in the early game.
Yeah, and once that goes bad, you think, okay, Immortals back in it. But then Immortals didn't do much with it. Dardoch was, like, super blunt, like, the whole game. And then
right now, Dardoch is. It used to be that you said that Dardoch gets 2 good ganks off a game, or 2 good plays and 1 bad play. Yep. Right now, he's getting 1 good game and 2 bad games a series.
He flipped it from 2 good plays and 1 bad to 1 bad game, or 1 good game, 2 bad games.
Yeah, and so right now his consistency is really bad for his team. And I think the only thing that's keeping Immortals like in the games right now is their bot lane consistency is almost like rock solid.
I think like they're pushing into like. We talk about them being mid-tier. I think they're like hitting upper mid-tier at this point.
Yes, I think they're around like the 5 mark, 4-5 mark. And I think that's very, very good for a bot lane that you expect to be like garbage. Like straight up, people like...
I mean, week 1, 2, we're blasting these people.
Yeah, these are the type of guys where it's like, dude, I can play any better. You can play. Yeah, you know. But then like now, I'm relatively impressed by their bot lane performance throughout the year.
And I think they still have some ways to go, obviously, but at least in terms of laning, they're good. I think a little out of lane, they could probably be better.
I think in laning, it's not just that. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I think their coach or whoever's drafting them is putting Ole on supports that always counterpick the enemy supports that are always in positions to do well. Ole is one of the only MF supports left, and they're being able to transition their bot lane to leads almost every game.
Well, to be fair,
they play bad bot lanes.
Well, I was about to say, they played some bad bot lanes this week. Like, legitimately TL worst bot lane in the league probably, and then Envy they just like drafted weird. Like no one's playing Zyra right now, and then they blinded Zyra, and he was just like, all right, I'll play MF. Great, you're playing like a bad version of a champ that I could already counter. So that was a little weird to me. I don't know. I think Envy had some med drafts as well, but
is it bad I expect that from Envy? Like I don't expect Envy to have like phenomenal drafting.
Yeah,
I just think that like. If they could Lyra could put the team in a position where they can win. Their bot lane is consistent, and so Lyra tries to stabilize the 2 inconsistent solo lanes. And if he can do that successfully, they have a chance of winning.
Yeah, I think that's a great description of like how Envy should like kind of plays the games at this point. Immortals, they seem like they're floundering because before it was like, all right, Flame and Dardoch will play well, and then they just need one of the 2 other lanes to help them out. Now it's like Dardoch's playing bad, Flame's all right, and then like they're still now the bot lane's consistent, but there's still not enough consistency on the team. So Dardoch's slumping at a really unfortunate time. It feels like
it's closing on the last 3 weeks.
It's like the most important time you could say of the season. It's right when other people are turning it on his team, and then he seems to be kind of not doing great. So that sucks.
So I want to end on the fact that I just want to bring up before when we talked about Lyra, I think in the midseason awards we thought that Lyra wasn't that good, but he had potential to go upwards. But we placed him like pretty far down the list. I think when we talked about him at least.
I thought we talked fairly highly about him. We were like
his early game is very good, but we don't know exactly what.
Yeah, he feels like a kind of a control jungler on a losing team.
As the season progresses more and more, I at least personally am starting to give a lot of credit to Lyra because he's literally the only way they win games. Like without Lyra, like. sure, Envy's late game is just god-awful, horrific stuff. Like, honestly, a lot of times I'm just like, what's happening? But a lot
they
of the,
snuck a Baron game 3. They're doing a little better.
Yeah, they're definitely doing better, for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of their improvement comes from the fact that Lyra is just putting them in positions to be able to transition well into the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that Envy without Lyra is like an Envy that's 10th place guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure. If you put in... I mean, there's a couple other junglers you could probably put in his shoes, and they're not 10th place. But I think Lyra's a good fit for the team.
Okay.
So, with that concluded, thank God, we can move on to the power rankings. Whew. And this is an interesting week. This is a really interesting week around the bottom tier teams.
Yeah, I think it's great because like usually you just put the bottom where it's like, oh, we're the easy teams first, like the bottom 3, they're really easy, and now it's like, oh,
I don't know about
God,
that one, Josh. You might be jumping the gun.
The bottom 3 are going to be hard this week.
This is hard. So he already put IMT down bottom. I think he's jumping the gun a little bit. There's a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Before we get into it, Josh, do you want to pull up the graphic of the overall how teams have moved up and down, or you want to save that for later?
Oh, I can bring that up.
Yeah, just while we're talking about the bot lanes. Or the bottom teams. So the 3 bottom teams, I actually think it's 4. I don't think you can throw Dignitas out of the bottom teams. It's in the under week 5 folder.
I would actually maybe put them slightly above, but I could definitely see where you'd argue that. I think at the very least, TL, Envy, Immortals is down there. Like guaranteed, there are 3 of the.
Those 3 are 100% down there.
Yes.
I would argue. I think Dignitas is in that tier. Or barely above it, to the point where like they're in their own tier, but because I don't think they're anywhere close to like Immortals, Echo Fox, CLG.
Yes, I don't think so either. But I also think that they tend to at least have a strength that can compete with the top teams.
Sure.
I think that their top lane is really good. And then I think their ability to turn plays is very good. Like at the point where they can compete with like up to like the 3rd or 2nd place.
I mean, their only top tier win is like FlyQuest, who played Jarvan and like Inted.
But they have close games against a lot of the top teams. I agree. They should be like closing out games means a lot more. But
Yeah.
I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because they've actually.
I'm down to knock Dignitas out of this top 3 thing. Or the bottom 3 thing, and focus more on NVTL Immortals just for simplicity's sake.
Okay.
So I think Envy and Immortals are really inconsistent, but they have like a couple of strengths and not horrendous weaknesses. Where I think TL has horrendous weaknesses, but like oddly like okay strengths.
I would probably agree with that statement. Like they have a okay, stable top side and a bot lane that makes you question what they're doing.
Yeah, they have a bot lane that makes you wonder like what scene you're watching, like collegiate.
And to be honest, our graph, which our lovely friend Ellen was able to make this for us.
Thanks, Ellen.
I mean, I'm just reading.
Eternal Melon.
Oh,
Eternal Melon. So the graph literally. Our thoughts about TL are very consistent with the trend that TL has kind of gone through.
Yeah. I mean, that was just like, woo! That's a bomb dropping.
Yeah.
That bomb's going to land in relegations most likely.
Okay, so if we're literally going to argue about the bot thing, I think I would put Immortals last.
You think you'd go all the way from Immortals bottom? I mean, this is being pretty focused on this week, right?
It is definitely focused on this week specifically, but I also think I had questions about Immortals last week. And while I saw their bot lane improvement, I was still just like, this team is literally just like Dardoch carried.
Yeah.
And
I don't think this team can win if Dardoch doesn't play
And
well.
I thought that last week, was it last week or was it like the beginning of this week? Flame played a lot better. I remember his Rumble game where he just like popped up.
Yeah, that was last week. I think they went 1-1 last week, and that's why they didn't move.
Yeah, and so like I think that they have problems where Dardoch's even playing worse than his normal level or worse than what you've seen from him so far.
Yeah.
And then Pobelter hasn't really improved super much, and their bot lane's improved, but they can't do much without their jungler. And their top lane has like kind of not. His weaknesses have been shown, like where he's like, if he doesn't get huge leads, he's like split pushing the whole game, and you're just like, what is this guy doing? So I have a lot of problems with the Immortals right now because I see their improvement, but I don't see the wins. So I guess it's more result based.
I would say I would still have to put TL bottom for me because I think my big problem with TL is just like the problem in bot lane is so horrendously bad. I don't think you can fix it. Whereas like And I know we're not supposed to be projecting to the future, but like we've seen in the past, Dardoch hard carry this team. The bot lane improvement out of Immortals isn't going to go anywhere, I don't think. I think this is like a season-long improvement that's going to stay. Dardoch is erratic. Dardoch is Dardoch, and that doesn't really change my opinion of him. He had a bad week this week. Maybe he's trending downwards and he's tilting off the face of the planet over the course of the season. But I still think that like they're the better team over TL, like just straight up.
I think that Immortals has more high and low points. Do you remember when we talked about Immortals at the very start of the season? You think they could beat a team anywhere from like 3 to like
10.
10.
Yeah.
And I think at this moment, that's even more well shown now. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Like, so this is when you're looking at Immortals' highest highs, I would put them above Team Liquid for sure.
Yeah, but
then when you're talking about the lowest lows, I think Immortals is like the 11th place team. Like you just write them off as like the team that can't beat anyone. And so I guess it's an evaluation of what would you like more, consistency or relative average?
I think for right now, because the problem with TL's consistency is it's like a consistently not even challenger level bot lane. Like that bot lane, I've watched a lot of the challenger series because I cast it, and like a lot of the bot lanes in Challenger Series would smash it. I'm not even kidding. Like, E United's bot lane would smash it. Tempo Storm's might.
I just think right now, bot lane... Maybe,
I'm not even kidding.
Maybe I just overestimate the relative skill. But I think that they could just lose by 20 CS and get carried by their top side. In some of their games. That's why I think that is more consistent than what I'm seeing from Immortals. Which could be literally like... Dardoch runs into Wraith Camp, dies. Pobo jumps over Wraith Camp, dies. Like, they try to dive top lane, they get double killed, and the bot lane's like 0-0 with a 10 CS lead, and you're just like, oh, good job, Ole. And good job, Cody. You guys are doing great. You like high-five them on their way out, and it's like, that's it. You know, okay, let's move a little bit away from this. What is your number 9?
I think number 9 would be Immortals. Oh. I have TL Immortals right now, and I'm kind of flip-flopping between. I think Envy's close, too. Wait, would you put Envy 9 and then TL 8? No way. No.
I put Envy as the top of the 3 bottom. Because I think they've shown good improvement, and I like what I'm seeing from them. They have, like, some sort of strategy, and I can see their consistency.
I actually agree with a lot of what you're saying. I was like, their early game is consistent enough. Ninja's a fucking madman. Seraph's a little bit of a madman, and then their bot lane can't carry. Yeah,
their bot lane is similar to Immortals' bot lane.
No,
a little bit worse. Like they're stable, I think, but worse than their bot lane. If
right,
that makes
but
sense.
I think like Cody will have games where he's like, well, I guess Apollo did have like a good Jhin game 2 in that series. Like, yeah, okay, I'd agree with that. But yeah, I'm fine with MV8 for sure. I think like they at least have like I said, MV is like their soul laners are crazy, but Lyra like does a good enough job in the early game controlling them, whereas Dardoch does not control his soul laners. He either's like, yeah, get in there, you're doing great, dude, or he's like, I'm gonna toss your lane.
He's the one going in there himself. Yeah, and you're just like, wait, please stop. Like,
and you almost never see Lyra do that. So I think
I think Lyra is a much more controlled Dardoch who also wins early game a large consistent amount of time. I think on a better team, he may be the best early game jungler, or one of the best early game junglers. I think even right now he's one of the best early game junglers in the league. And so I think I'm more than willing to give Lyra, their team 8th, and this just shows like they've never passed 9 ever on our weekly power rankings. They're trending slightly upwards,
but it's only because Immortals look so bad this week. Otherwise, we're talking about TL versus Envy.
Okay.
And then for number 9, I would still probably put Immortals there and then TL, but that's just me because I know that like maybe it's a little too predictive. I know Immortals can figure this out. I know Dardoch.
Immortals can figure this out.
I mean, they can also just.
You have no faith in TL.
I have no faith in that bot lane.
Oh, I think they've shown 1 week. And like, if we're going predictive, they've shown 1 week. I'm willing to give them 1 week of practice to see what happens. You know, I think, however, Immortals just dropped the ball. Drop the ball this week. I don't want to be super results focused, right?
Yeah.
They 0-2 this week against Envy as well. And who else did they lose to? They lost against TL. Yeah. So they lost against the other 2 teams that we're talking about. And I'm not saying the other 2 teams won easily, but it's like during the games, like I can't believe you watch Immortals. You're just like, this team. I wish I was watching TL over Immortals. Like, you're watching Immortals and being like, they got some strengths. And I hate Youngbin, but, you know, at least TL can
I mean, like, legitimately, like, it's like Piglet has had some good games and some black games, and whereas like Youngman has just been like bad every time. And then like Rainover has been better. Lorlo's still pretty solid in the top lane. They have all that going for them at like the top half of the map.
Their bot lane is blah. And I completely agree, but I'm willing to give him some of the benefit of the doubt that the team, the benefit of the doubt that their top side is more powerful than their bot side. And Piglet did this switch because he also believes that as well. And so
I think they just, like, I don't know when roster lock is. Find an AD carry. Find a real AD carry. Find a real AD carry who can play matchups. That's all you need.
I actually agree with that.
You don't need anyone with a brain. You just need to find an AD carry who can play the matchups.
The problem is, it's like maybe we undervalue the friendship that Piglet has, because being on a team with Piglet is really hard. But so if you're friends with Piglet and you can play like the role, even at a bad level, you encourage, like, if you don't have conflict with Piglet on the team, that's more ideal for TL.
I think that's a misstatement of Piglet's attitude, because I think a lot of the problems that had come with Piglet not respecting people was because, one, he had to lane with them, which is a problem. Now
I completely understand.
And then the only other one was usually like a jungler, or like in team situations where it's like, oh, our tanks don't tank well, or like this, like our jungler over prioritizes top lane and stuff like that.
So now that he's the mid laner, he just expects the AD to suck.
What I was gonna say is that like maybe it turns out that way, but like I think he already likes Rainover and respects Rainover, so he doesn't have that jungle conflict. And I think for the most part he likes Lorlo. So I think like
he just expects the AD to always suck.
Yeah, I don't know,
because there'll never be a better AD. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Honestly, like I don't know.
He's already better than Faker according to him. You know.
After Frog gets serious today.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. Okay,
all right. Let's put it. How passionate are you about NV10 or TL10? I mean, fuck, I can't even speak. Immortals 10.
Give me Immortals at 10. I think.
Okay.
We
all right, you got it. You got it if you want it. I don't think I'm not like super passionate about it.
But the bottom two to me are just like the bottom two. Like we're arguing literally like the bottom of the gutter teams.
And I think, I don't know.
I give like a lot of it to me, or a little bit about it to me. I guess what swings the boat is just the record this week. Like you're playing against the two other bottom teams.
Yeah.
And what I saw nothing of what I wanted to see.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I think TL like beat Immortals, who was looking really bad this week, which isn't impressive either. And then they lost to Echo Fox, who was struggling. And
yeah, dude, TL's climbing.
TL's climbing, baby.
All right,
just turn this franchise around. Piglet mid, let's go.
Immortals, TL, Envy. That's our bottom three. I think the next one is fairly straightforward. We already talked about a little bit. Dignitas.
Yep.
They barely are above their peers. I think the fact that they had a close series against TSM, which is considered...
I mean, it was a 2-0.
Yeah, it was a 2-0, but like at least one of the games was relatively close. And I think they have, even though they're very, very binary in their playstyle, I think they're better at their binary playstyle than all these other teams are at trying to play the rest of the game. Like,
I don't know, because their binary playstyle literally only exists in the first 15 minutes of the game. Once you get past 15 minutes, that playstyle is basically like, did we do enough to let someday carry us? It's not like they transition into like an okay, like mid-late game team. You know what I'm saying? Like their playstyle exists for only the first 15 minutes of the game.
That's true, but I think it's more stable than like a sub.
I don't think you could argue them over Echo Fox or CL. Like, it's not even a discussion.
No.
I think as bad as Echo Fox has been looking recently.
Yeah, they're here because they're slightly better than the bottom three, and they're worse than the rest of the teams. So we put them here out of necessity. Yeah,
it's like they have to go somewhere, so they go here. If the bottom tier teams looked any better, they would be over them.
Yes, I think the biggest thing Dig has is they have Someday, and they have a team that can camp for Someday, and they can turn team fights if the other team initiates poorly.
Right.
Those are their strengths. Please develop more strengths.
Yeah, their strengths are literally Someday, and if you fuck up, we're not so bad that we can't punish this and potentially win a game.
Yes.
And I mean, I gotta say, I just think Chaser is like super unimpressive.
Yes,
I think it's literally a waste of an import slot. I think he should be gone next split unless he like shows massive improvement. But it's definitely not good.
Like what I expected from Lyra is what I expected Chaser to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just not good.
Yeah, like that dive in the top lane was like on the Graves, just gross. Thank you, Josh. Leave Josh alone, chat. I don't even know what you did.
They were complaining about the arrows. I said screw arrows in chat.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 5 is a little. It's not. It's our 6. Excuse me. Is it 6 or? Yeah, this is 6. All right, God.
Wait, 10, 9, 8, 7. Yeah, we're at 6.
I mean,
so
this one is.
What are the teams that are left?
It's Echo Fox.
Echo Fox.
It's Echo Fox.
P1.
It's Echo Fox.
Yeah, it's Echo Fox.
It's Echo Fox.
It's Echo Fox.
It's Echo Fox.
Yes.
You know why it's Echo Fox?
Yes.
Everyone else below them's worse.
Yes.
It's the exact same argument for Dig, but for Echo Fox.
What do you think about their week this week?
To be fair, Froggen still looks like a monster. So I think Acadian, I don't know if he's slumping or if he's come back down to earth. I'm scared it's the latter. I think maybe Acadian played out of his fucking mind for the first half of the year, and it's like he's not that good and he's coming back down, and that's my big concern. And he had a bad week during the 0-2 week. He still looked over aggressive. Like he still had a lot of first bloods again and like a lot of good plays in the early game, but he also was just like caught out clearing Krugs like 2 or 3 times today, or getting killed at a red buff, and it happens way too much.
My bigger problem with this team is that I expected Impact to be more of a rock, and he didn't bounce back like Impact.
Looper?
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
God, Looper.
Yeah.
So I expected Looper to be more of a rock, and similar to Impact, he failed last week, didn't do well, but he didn't bounce back like Impact did this week. And so they need Looper to be this steady player so that like their mid jungle could be able to work off of him, and or else one of the biggest things about Echo Fox right now is their team fighting sucks.
Their team fighting is awful, and I think it's mostly off the front line being awful.
The front line doesn't play well together, and then the back line can't even. And the Froggen's like always stable. This guy's always playing very well.
Froggen's a rock. Keith sometimes mispositions, but it's not helped by the fact that his front line is just like all over the place.
Yeah, and this is coming from a show that typically harps on Keith playing poorly.
Yeah,
I think that Keith isn't able to develop how the team fight a lot of times because their front line is.
It's like their front line's going in way too deep, and Keith's like, I should follow up on that, right, guys? And then he's like dead. Or his front line's like, oh, we're not going to peel for you when they dive you because we're diving their back line. Like, there's still way too many times Keith is just like in front of a turret, gets hit and killed. Like that still happens, but it's felt like that's happened a lot less in the recent weeks, and he's mostly in the right position, maybe a little too safe. But it's just like, where's his setup? And the same thing with Froggen, but Froggen at least like is good.
Froggen's really
Froggen's really good.
Like the more I see Froggen play, I'm just like, this guy's a monster.
I think he benefited a little bit this week playing against TL, like where Piglet just is not on that caliber, not at that level, and there were a lot of mid bans against him, so he couldn't play like the few things he's probably already.
But then again, he also played against Jensen, which we categorize as the best mid laner in the league,
and he looked good.
And he looked good against Jensen. Like
his Ahri destroyed him.
His Ahri. To be fair, he got a large camp.
Yeah,
but even in the mid late game where the camp doesn't matter as much, he's able to find the solo picks that his team needed to even stay in the game.
And I think this was something we were criticizing him earlier in the year about, whereas like they can only win when Acadian goes off. That's still true to an extent, but I felt like this week in particular, Froggen did enough where if Acadian was playing anything close to his regular level, they win these games harder.
Absolutely.
Because like even that game versus TL that they lost when he was on Anivia, he's literally 1v2ing a lane mid, and he gets 2 kills against the bot lane. You're just like, oh my god, like what more do you want out of this guy? And
to be fair, Looper did help like with a harpoon or whatever, but for the most part, he was in tier 2 pressuring like their second turret by himself, and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was really brutal. Oh, that's like losing that game was the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, so Echo Fox gets put here. I want to see Looper play better. I want to see if Acadian's average level is right now. Big issue for Echo Fox. I don't know if they can recover.
Yeah,
but hopefully he gets back into the first 4 weeks form, and we are able to see what Echo Fox looks like now that the rest of the team seems to be coming together minus Looper.
Right.
I think their bot lane's been playing as an average. They've been
playing better.
Yeah.
Their laning phase is still very erratic, but out of lane, Keith has not been as bad. And Froggen has slightly improved. Looper has slightly unimproved. Like jungle top have gotten a little worse.
And I don't think Gate dies as randomly as he used to.
Yeah.
So he's able to be a little bit more consistent and not throw away his life. And so I just think that they're missing the Acadian.
They need the Acadian back.
Absolutely.
I think if Acadian was playing normal, even with Looper playing worse, they would be winning.
Okay, so now we're up top 5, and this is going to be a little bit interesting.
Do you see our last week's top 5?
Yes.
Do you think it changes at all?
Who did P1 play this week again?
P1 played CLG and lost, and then played someone and won. They went 1-1. Who'd they play and win?
I think I would only maybe potentially switch those two.
I think
But
maybe
FlyQuest is strange too.
I think FlyQuest and P1 was one I was looking at as well.
Like I think the bottom three change, and I'm not convinced about C9 being able to trump TSM. So I think TSM stays.
I think TSM 1 stays for me as well.
They're a rock. I think Concert played the best of any top laner this week. And he was getting like ridiculously pressured in a lot of the games this week, but he was able to play very well off of it. I think Sven still has one of the better Rengars in North America, and just solely because of that.
I mean, when we say better Rengars in North America, we don't mean it's a good Rengar. We just don't mean it's one of the Rengars that jumps in and kills it. Yeah. There's like Acadian, Dardoch, Contracts,
and Anori. I think
Anori,
really
and then like those four are like legitimately decent at the champion. And then Sven is like not awful, and then there's just the awful ones. The Smithies, the Rainovers.
Yeah, so I think that nothing tells me that C9 should deserve going up this week. And I think TSM played relatively well.
Yep.
Sure, they lost a really bad first game where they picked or not bad first game. I literally think of the game versus Dignitas as a loss because of how badly they played, or like how the game kind of developed. But they did 2-0 the series. I think that's whatever, you know?
Yep.
They tried in the 0 pick, didn't really work out. TSM still first.
Yep, TSM still first. That puts C9 second pretty obviously. C9 bounced back 2-0.
Their team fighting is still amazing. This is a week where I thought that Jensen had
a worse week
than
usual.
Not great week. I thought his position, he had more positioning errors than usual, and maybe that kind of applies to Sneaky a little bit as well.
I thought both of them out of lane did not look as good as we're used to seeing, and then in lane he got destroyed by Frog in that one game. Yeah, and it was a counter matchup. He got counter matched up a lot, but
and I think that Impact came back strong this week.
Impact came back real strong.
The only reason why I would give Impact or see that any upward traction is if like their solo lanes play better with the current Impact. But that didn't happen, so I think they still say
and to be fair, you know, Sneaky and Jensen played fine.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like
we hold this team to a high standard because C9 and TSM are the teams we're looking at as like the top two teams.
Like, these guys are going to be in the international competition for us, almost guaranteed lockdown 100%.
Yes.
And we want to see them look good.
Exactly. And so our critique may sound a little bit harsh for these teams, but I think that like we just like setting expectations high for these teams because we think that they themselves put high expectations.
Yeah, I don't think C9 looks back at this week and be like, yeah, man, we crushed this shit. That 2-0 versus like FlyQuest was clean. It's like, no, not at all. I think other than Impact being like, yeah, I think I did pretty well. I don't think you can say that about many others. Maybe Contracts. I think Contracts had
a decent week. I'm usually the guy who's like, he's not a top 5 jungler, or he's like,
I thought he looked top 5.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. He had games where he didn't have to pressure mid to win, and I thought that generally he didn't die in as many stupid positions as he did before.
Yeah, there was less like random, like I'm in my jungle and I'm dead because I didn't respect the other guy invading me.
Oh, and another thing to work on TSM before we switch off the top 2, I thought that the bot lane played pretty well. I think their bot lane is coming together slowly, and they're not just plain losing bot lane anymore, and they're being able to be impactful outside lane phase. Turtle is not as good as Doublelift, I think, still, but however...
Crazy!
However, I think he's being able to pull his own weight rather than getting carried a lot.
I always thought out of lane, Turtle for the most part pulled his own weight. I thought it was in lane that sometimes he just died in ways he shouldn't have, or like took a horrible trade, now you're down pressure in the lane. And to be fair, this week, I can't think of a time that really happened. Maybe it did, but it didn't feel as impactful as it had in previous weeks.
And I thought Bifrost played pretty well. Like I just think Bifrost is a very high-level, stable support.
I think like maybe he doesn't have quite as big of an impact on the game as you would hope of other supports. Like I think relative to even like an Afro or Elimination, his game impact is usually lower than them, but for better or worse.
He brings more consistency than the other two. I think a lot of that is because of TSM's relative shot calling style. Usually in every team that supports shot calls.
A decent amount.
And to some of the teams like KT, Mata just does all the shot calling.
I mean, Smoothie does a lot.
Afro
does a lot. Lemon doesn't do that much. I think that's mostly going to be around Moon and High. But he still talks.
Yeah, he definitely does, especially the draft section. However, when you look at Bifrost, even his interviews, he's like, oh yeah, dude, like, Hanser and Bjorkson stepped up a lot in shot calling this year.
Did you watch like the mic check or the TSM video or whatever?
Yeah, I did, where he like didn't talk at all.
Yeah, it's all Hanser and Bjork, like literally.
Yeah, and so it's just like, it's cool that they can step up to take the spot that Doublelift left, but I think that he should also have to do that a little bit. And maybe he shouldn't have to, but because of that, he's just going to naturally bring less impact.
Yeah, I think he can step up and do more, but I think for what he's doing right now, it's enough.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yep. So those two obvious. So I think I don't think there's any way CLG gets above P1 or FlyQuest. I know CLG beat P1, right? They did, and then they lost to TSM if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And they got like annihilated.
I will give you that 100%. They got
even though they beat FlyQuest, they did beat P1, right? I'm not crazy.
Yes, they beat P1.
Yeah, I don't think it changed my mind that much. I still don't think they're better. Maybe they are. Maybe.
Again, who was the other team P1 played against? I legitimately
can't remember.
forgot.
I was like looking for my other notes. Let me look at my other notes.
It's not today's note just shows.
Yeah, Dig. They beat Dig in a 3-game series. Maybe P1 does drop below CLG here.
That sounds like when you telling me that, I'm just like that sounds terrible.
Yeah, you hear that, you're like, no. The 3-game series was Dig.
I was almost willing to give you that.
Oh well, to be
fair, what?
I was gonna say Dig looked good that series actually, and that was like when Zig kind of carried them a little bit with like the Kled games, and then they had the Ashe, Rengar, Nami, Ori comp with Shen that they just like couldn't play at all. Like they never P1 never forced to play with that shit, and then they went on to GP and they I don't know.
I think just barely, just because of the fact that I don't see TSM's. Or CLG's loss to TSM mattering much because sure they got spanked, right? But do I think CLG's close to TSM's level right now? Absolutely not.
No, they're not. And they played really aggressive. Like they had 4-man roams mid level 4.
Yeah, they played crazy, and I don't think they drafted well. I think Tony even tweeted.
Their drafts that series were awful. That was probably the worst drafts that they've had this year.
Exactly, and so do I think they're close to the top 2 in skill at the moment? No,
I don't even think they're close to FlyQuest.
I'm willing to give you that. I think even though FlyQuest is also erratic, they can win. They're gonna win.
Yeah,
you highly suspected to win. With CLG, I coin flip against any team. It's
right.
They're playing against TL. Shit, they might lose this.
You put FlyQuest against Echo Fox, right? Or P1. I'm like, yeah, FlyQuest probably wins that. But you put CLG against that, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know. The CLG P1 series was super close. It was scary. So. I think 3 through 5 is really interesting right now. I think,
FlyQuest is the thing.
They're trending down.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to put them lower.
I want to put FlyQuest lower too, but I can't. Not with how CLG and P1 look this week.
I think both. Yeah, I think exactly the same thing. I think both CLG and P1 didn't look that great. I'd be even willing to give maybe a competition if CLG won a game against TSM or even were close, but they just got slapped. And so, even though FlyQuest did some really stupid.
Yeah,
games.
they went to 3 games versus Envy, but it was they're random as hell, and then they lost to a closer series versus C9 than CLG lost to TSM.
Yes, and I thought
FlyQuest looked competitive versus C9. CLG TSM did not look competitive, not at all.
It looked like a top team versus a bottom team.
Yeah.
It looked bad. I'm willing to give CLG 4th just because they beat P1.
Yeah.
And because I don't think P1 looked that great this week. I still am have question marks about P1, especially I think Meteos and Ryu sometimes
have no synergy.
Yeah, I'm not super sold on them. And to be fair, Meteos has been playing with the team for 1.5 weeks, and if they're gonna play with a Nori, I don't know what's gonna happen with their team. I don't know the behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit, but it's nothing I'm gonna divulge here.
Right, and so it's not looking great. It's
not looking good for P1 really, and I think FlyQuest is trending down pretty hard actually, but they benefited for 2 reasons this week. One, their win was against one of the worst teams in the league, and then their loss was against one of the best teams in the league. So they didn't have to play a mid-tier team this week. I think if they played a mid-tier team this week, they might have lost.
If they played either P1 or CLG, I would have been saying that would have been a close series.
Yeah, I think they're looking like they might drop that series versus even Echo Fox if Froggen maybe Monsters High a game or
yes.
2.
No, oh yeah. If Froggen comes in super on fire.
If Froggen plays against FlyQuest when they next play, like he played this week, I think FlyQuest could be in trouble.
Yeah, and Akadi has an average game.
Yeah.
That's a hard series for FlyQuest
if he semi-matches Moon, FlyQuest is in trouble. And I mean, there's still 3 for us right now. But it's like a very tenuous 3 because, like I said, I think they lost to a team we were expecting them to lose to.
Like 3.5, just move them a little bit down.
Yeah, like just Josh, just offset FlyQuest a little bit, like just kind of like visually drop them down, like they're falling off 3, they're like hanging on, like oh shit.
They're 3, but like they're a 3 that I'm just like.
They're like standing on the 3. They're not standing anymore. They have jumped off the 3 platform.
They're approaching the 4.
They like might turn around and grab the 3 platform, but they're like starting to fall past it, like looking back. They're in trouble. FlyQuest is in trouble. 335 is in trouble. CLG still trending up a little bit.
It's hard to say because honestly, TSM's looking good, like really good.
Right. Like, if they had like a slightly more convincing loss.
And to be honest, it's like, do I fault the players for that draft? Or is that just something that like the coach did?
Well, given that, I mean, obviously,
it's an entire team, right?
Yeah.
So I think that they just had, again, like you said, one of the worst drafts I've seen them have the split throughout the series.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's more competitive. I don't think I'm super impressed with them right now.
Yeah.
And I still don't think that Xmithies has consistency because he has like on and off games similar to Dardoch. He has slightly more on games than Dardoch or more average games than Dardoch, for sure.
I think like he doesn't have the pop-off games where he hard carries, but he also doesn't have games where he's like
hard feats outside the Rengar game. That game was like actually.
I mean, he'll have games where he'll play like team fights wrong, but he usually doesn't just like invade stupidly and cost his team the early game. 0.5. Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
That's great. So I think that's our entire power rankings. We give CLG the benefit for essentially losing against TSM and beating P1.
Yeah, and Scarra is much more on the IMT 10 train than I am. I'm more on the TL 10 train, but we have to compromise.
Yeah, I'm willing.
That's what makes relationships work, everybody. If you and your girlfriend are beefing, just go talk to her. Have a heart-to-heart. Tell her you love her.
That wraps up the show, right?
And then hope you get a blowjob.
What?
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about? All right, so that's the show for this week, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all of our social media. We have a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So if you guys are on those, yeah, go follow those things.
Yeah, and VODs will be out tomorrow, ideally sometime in the morning.
Sometime morning to noon tomorrow. And so if you guys missed the show, came in late, it's on my YouTube channel, which you can find below in the information below.
And we will be changing up the graphics a little bit. Hopefully, we got the lights working. Did we get everything backlit today? How's the set look today?
I heard it looked pretty good.
Set looks okay. Like our camera still needs some work.
I
don't know. Maybe it's just too far away, so it doesn't.
Yeah, we can try it.
I don't know
we'll mess around with it.
Also, your laptop's like dying. Like randomly, when I was like setting things up, it was like freezing, and I had to restart your laptop and stuff.
My computer's fine.
Anyways, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Again, this show is on Saturdays and Sundays, not Fridays. So please do not tweet at me. Scarra, where is the show on Friday?
Guys, if you want shows on Fridays, let Scarra know at Scarra. Ask him for more PLT.
Please no. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
We are yelling from across the room.